Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burn Network. I am your host, Rrr and it is my pleasure to be hosting a watch party of one of the most amazing documentaries out there right now, guys, called Voices of Central. Not only are we hosting this watch party, but we actually have the creator of the documentary right here on the Burn Network, guys. I'd like to introduce Isreal King, and many of you have already met Isreal from his previous streams right here on the Burn Network. Isreal, it is such a pleasure to have you here again. And of course, Isreal has his own show here on the Burn Network as well, the Otaku Experience, which is on at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. Isreal, welcome to this watch party, your watch party of your documentary. Isreal, it's such a pleasure to meet you. This is the first time that I've had a chance to speak to you. How are you tonight?
I'm good. It's great to see you and meet you as well. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to do this. Um, yeah, I'm super stoked. I didn't even think that this was even a possibility. I had the original premiere with like 30 or so people when the film originally came out, but getting the email that you sent me to pitch this, I saw it and I was just blown away. So I want to thank you for giving the opportunity to put this film on a bigger platform. So thank you for that.
You are welcome, Israel, and it is a pleasure here to host this watch party. Guys, we're asking that you go to the YouTube channel, which I have in the link in the in the chat. You're going to go to the YouTube channel and you're going to click on the link, and that's where you're going to view the film. We're going to be viewing the film too that way. It is free to view on YouTube, so you can watch it that way. You want to watch it along with us. And Israel, I love films that deal with performance art in particular. I absolutely thrive on that. I always think that you capture a very special moment when you do something regarding performance art. What inspired you to capture this moment in Voices of Central?
Well, I've always loved, like you, I've always loved performance art. I've loved art as a whole. I've always loved storytelling, and I always wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. And then ultimately that turned into me realizing that I didn't want to be like the person portraying the story. I wanted to be the person telling the story. And I realized that ultimately I wanted to be the director. And so I went to high school and I still took theater to learn what it was like to be in that perspective of an actor. And like that, I also joined a choir and did show choir. And I was actually in Voices of Central. And I my senior year, I was even the dance captain of the group. And we went on to place fourth place at a national competition, and that was great and very fun. And then I the entire time I was in the group, I was like, this is such a fun dynamic, and everybody looks up to us, and everybody wonders how further we are from every other show choir in the state of Texas. And I was like, why is nobody like exploiting this? This is like a huge thing here. And then when I graduated, I realized, why don't I just do it myself? And so I pitched it to the directors of the choir and to the school district. And ultimately, I think mainly because they knew me, they all said yes. And I was lucky enough to be able to do this. And I think that ultimately it was a story that needed to be told. At its core, it's a story about students going on a journey and learning, like mainly from the seniors perspective, learning what it means to move on and kind of take a temporary family that you've built for all these years and take the good things from that going forward. And so it was a story I was super passionate about, and luckily everybody else involved wanted to tell the same story as well, so it kind of worked out perfectly.
Well, that is very interesting, and as I've mentioned to you, and you and I literally just met a few seconds ago, but as we've been talking about this, in particularly looking at performance art, the film that won Best Film, let's say the Academy Award for Best Film, was a film called Coda, and it was about a young woman who wanted to become a performance artist herself.
Hmm.
And I always think it's very compelling when you kind of get this call, this drive to become a performance artist, or even to capture or document that process, which is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of commitments, a lot of hours that are outside of, let's say, the classroom experience, outside of those hours of preparation and kind of mental preparedness in order to pursue some sort of career like that. And it is inspirational to see that. But there is also this certain element of joy associated with performance art. And that joy, of course, is obviously whatever is being performed is one thing, but the actual experience of performing and watching the performer, certainly having that experience, especially in a live situation like what you've captured here, is something that you can't kind of duplicate all the time. So when you catch these performances, it's very special. But I think it's very interesting to look at the development of a young performer, which is what you've been doing, Isreal. These performers, they can go on and do anything with their lives that they wish. And of course, we know many of them will go on to do different things.
Mm.
Maybe performance may not be the only thing, or it could be an additional, or whatever they choose to do. But it is exciting to see somebody in the early stages of performance. Tell me about what you think about the kind of the growth and development that you witness in your documentary of the performers here, including that of your own, while making Voices of Central.
Yeah, very, very great question, and I'm glad you asked it. The one of the very interesting things, because I made this documentary, I want to say 2 years after I graduated from the choir. And so there were people that I knew who, when I graduated, were sophomores, but now they were seniors. And I kind of witnessed them go from high school students into adults in my eyes. And I kind of watched these kids go from kids, because I saw them start high school, and I watched them graduate and become these young men and women. And it was a very interesting experience to see how much they matured, and how capable they were, and how much they maximized all of their potential and effort and talent into putting it into this one thing with all these other people to make the best product possible. Me personally, I think I matured a lot learning uh, how hard films are to make. Because I think a lot of people who have never made films before, they look at like behind the scenes and things like that, and they're like, yeah, it looks hard, but it looks fun, I could do that. And then you get into it, and this was just a documentary with people I knew, very local for the most part. It's at one location, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And so I can't even fathom what it's like for other, types of films to be made, because I was looking at this and it was such a daunting task. But I realized I took a lot of lessons away for filmmaking from this, mainly being that things never go according to plan, never. And I also learned that you really have to trust in the people that you're working with. It was almost like people that who I was covering in the story, whenever I wasn't filming them, they almost became like crew. They were so involved and they wanted to help any way that they could make it easier for me to film things, or make the documentary better as a whole. Like if they were blocking the camera, and they didn't need to move, but they would get out of the way. And I was like, it's a documentary. You're allowed to stand there. I'm just filming y'all. But they were like, no, we'll get out of the way. We'll let you film so you can have a clear shot and let it look as good as possible. And I appreciate that for them. And so a lot of it was just learning different filmmaking lessons, mainly working with other people. Because I'd never done something like that, especially on this scale. And so that was uh, very, very nice. I don't even know if I answered your question. I feel like I kind of went off, but
I think you did answer it, and it is wonderful to hear, the filmmakers' vision and response to this, because it is very, it's enjoyable to explore the filmmaking process. So you did answer the question, and I thank you for also giving us even more in that answer. Another question that I have about all of this is has to do with, of course, editing, and of course, both you and I know, you start off doing a project like this, and maybe you have 3 or 4 cameras and you take video, and then you get into your workstation and you have to go through this process of taking things in and out, and deciding what gets put in and what gets removed. And in your particular circumstance, Israel, you're also dealing with audio. So a lot of things had to kind of match up perfectly, I imagine. And that must have also been an additional job for you, just kind of sequencing everything so that it makes sense and is, in more or less in the context that you're filming it. But how was that a challenge for you? And I'm kind of curious because it's not a short film, guys. This is, a long film. It's like a regular length film. So it's not sort of like a 30-minute project we're talking about. How did you find that editing process from when you first started, and then let's say to the point where you knew you had what you wanted to create? How was that experience for you?
Oh, it's terrible. Oh man. Oh wow. It was I want to say it was like at times it was harder than filming the documentary. At times it was easier. I would say consistently it was probably about the same difficulty for different reasons. So I filmed the entire school year. And I filmed basically everything. And so I got down, I sat down at my desk and I opened up my Premiere and I started dropping in files. And I forget the exact number, but it was somewhere between 60 and 80 hours of footage that I had to compress. And the original pitch that I gave to Keller ISD, the school district, was, oh yeah, it's gonna be like 80 minutes. Um, and then that didn't happen. And a lot of it was, there was so much good stuff and so many good moments of growth for these students that I didn't want to cut out, or even for the directors too. They had all these great moments um, where they would like have a coming of age moment, or there was like camaraderie between the two peers. And I was like, this is all gems. This is great. I can't cut this out. And part of me was like, maybe do it as a series. Maybe we could just cut it up like that. And I was like, but no, I prefer the feature film style where you sit down and then you take in an entire story in one sitting. And I was really committed to doing that. The first cut of the movie was actually over 3 hours long. So it's about, the length of Avatar. And I saw it and I was like, it has a lot of stuff I want in it, but I realized that even though I personally liked it, it was in no position to be watched by the public. It was too long, it was overblown. There were too many things that would be inside baseball for people who didn't know anything about show choir. So I had to start cutting things out. I cut out entire quote unquote plot lines, I guess you could say. I mean, it's not like a linear story or anything like that, but there were times where they went to certain competitions or they went to certain things and the choir did something for like a day or two. And I ultimately had to like take it out altogether because I was like, this is not building up to what I need it to build up to. It's cool, it's fun, but it's not ultimately necessary. And it is exactly like what a lot of directors say it is. It's like killing one of your kids because you film it and you love what you filmed, and you love the work on the screen, and you love the people involved, but you realize to make the best movie possible, you have to take it out. And it was hard, but it had to be done. And doing it enough times, it got to the point that I got to the point where I was sad, but I was comfortable doing it. Where I was like, okay, this needs to be taken out. We got to take it out. And the film, or the editing process, took about 3 months to edit it all down. It was a pretty fast editing process. Luckily, I had the interviews to kind of guide where the story was going. So I used the students that I interviewed. I used their perspective to kind of pick up on the main themes that I wanted to focus on, and where the story would climax and where it would build up to. And so all the pacing and everything kind of relies on those interviews. And so if I didn't have those interviews, this would, I don't even know if the documentary would have been out. I may have just given up on it, because I think those interviews really saved me, because it was almost like I had some form of a script. Because if you're writing like a film with a story, you have a script, you have a guideline of the structure, you know where you're going. And there might be some tweaks and edits you make in the editing. You might switch some scenes around or whatever to make it flow better. But this was all I'm just going to film you for an entire year and we're going to hope it works out. I would have people ask me during the filming of the year, they'd be like, how's it going? I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know how the film's going. I guess we'll find out when it comes out. And then I sat down, and every day you go through cycles of mainly this is not going to work out. This is going to be bad. And then you have every now and then you have a moment of this might actually work out. Like this is everything's kind of falling into place. And then immediately it's brought back with a bunch of dread and fear of badness. But I think ultimately it worked out. There are still some things that I've seen the documentary probably 20 times now. I mean, more than that if you count how many times I've edited it, but in its final product, I've seen it, about 20 times. And I think that there are things that I could have left in. I think that there are things I could have taken out, but I'm happy, but I'm not happy with the film as it is. And I think I'm never going to be perfectly happy with the film. And I think that this honestly is probably the best version of the film that could have came out. So I'm ultimately very happy with the film. The editing process, guys, if you want to be an editor or if you want to be in Hollywood at all, this is no joke. Ask Rob, who's edited films. Oh my goodness. Everything has to kind of work out perfectly. And I personally, I think it did here. So
Mhm. Yes, that is very interesting, and I'm glad you did tell us about that process because it is if for the viewers who haven't done any editing, it can be hard to conceptualize what goes into that. And I imagine if you filmed them for an entire year, you must have had so much footage to go through that it was its own challenge at, kind of figuring out if you were going to say, okay, I really want to focus on element A, but element B is also very good, and so is C.
mhm.
So there's going to be a lot of that, which is actually a good thing. Having wonderful performances and interviews to choose from, and of course, we hear documentarians like yourself talk about how when you first start to make the documentary, you have a certain vision in mind, and of course, by the end of the documentary, it's something completely different. Can you tell me if that was your experience, and please describe how that happened for you?
You hit the nail right on the head. That was exactly the experience. I went in and I still have it. I still have the original paper and the email I sent to the school district for the pitch. And there are so many things that went wrong in filming that just didn't pan out. There was the main story was actually going to be about the two dance captains. But one of the dance captains had a scheduling conflict, and so we couldn't film her interview. And so I had to kind of improvise and make one of the other interviews like kind of the lead story along with the other dance captain. And that took a bunch of editing, magic, and fiddling with her storyline and her interview to make her. And I had to kind of I actually had to kind of change the theme of the movie a little bit in doing that, where I had to take it away from the story of two dance captains and make it a story as a whole about the senior class. And so that meant I had to take out other things that had to do only with the dance captains because it didn't apply anymore because that one interview got taken out. There was a subplot where I was gonna focus on like the effect VOCs had on other show choirs in the state, mainly with the junior varsity show choir at the same school. And so I was going to follow them because they go to their own competitions and they do their own thing. And I kind of wanted to see what it was like from their perspective. That ultimately never panned out. I never did that just because scheduling conflicts got in the way. And then you always think that the year is going to pan out one way, and without spoiling it, because I mean, it happened. I mean, it's not like this is like a movie, but without spoiling what happens in the documentary, there's ways that you think competitions are going to play out, or ways that you think that certain people are going to end off in the school year, and you see dynamics change between people, and you see things in competitions not pan out the way that you think they could. That doesn't mean it went for better or for worse. It just means that it's not what you had in your mind, and it wasn't. Once again, it changes the theme of what the documentary was going to be in conception. And it was very interesting to go back and reread that, because I reread it after I finished editing the film, and I looked at what the pitch was and what the final product was, and I was like, these are two completely separate things with very few identifiable constants in between. It's almost like two completely different like filmmakers made it, or two completely different films in it in general. It was a very, very interesting experience. It was a little irritating, because you get so attached to this one vision you have, and you're like, this is it, this is I thought everything through. These are the themes, these are the people I want to follow, that I want to get this aspect and this view of the choir. And then it doesn't pan out the way you thought. You get some of it, but you don't get other bits of it. You film some things that you didn't think you were going to film. And then you have to, once again, with editing, you have to, once again, find a way to make it all match together and kind of work out. And yeah, it was an irritating, but also a grateful experience. Cause like I said, I think that this is the best version of the film that could have come out of this.
Yeah, well, that's exciting to hear that. And of course, my next question is going to have to do with the audio editing, especially when you're talking about vocal performances, Israel. I have never had to, I imagine that this would be somewhat challenging for a number of reasons. Tell me about the editing experience for the audio, in particular for the vocal performances, and how that was in getting it just right for the film.
Oh, the audio, man. Oh, oof, you just Vietnam flashbacks. I the audio. It's very funny you bring that up because I had a specific problem with the audio, and that was about halfway through the school year. For some reason, the audio in every piece of footage after that messed up. And so I had to fiddle with it, and I did this for weeks where I was tweaking it and looking at different things you can do on YouTube, or looking up different effects that you can do to fix the audio. And the audio is the best it can sound. And I think that it matches the first half, so it's almost an indistinguishable transfer. But I don't know what happened. I guess maybe my microphone got hit in the process, or maybe I don't know, maybe someone accidentally kicked my camera. I don't know what happened, but for some reason the audio got messed up. And then, like you were saying, with vocal performances too, where the audio is such a pivotal part of the thing. Um, and I would even argue, from what I've learned in filmmaking, that audio is even more important than visuals. Because if something looks nice but it sounds bad, the audience is usually going to leave. But if it looks bad but it sounds great, then it almost has to do entirely on what you're saying or what the content has to do with, and then they might stay. And that's something I've learned with making YouTube videos, something I've learned when it comes to editing and filmmaking. And so I was super distraught when I saw that. And it was once again another time where I was like, maybe the film's not going to come out. But I think it worked out. There were times where the choir gets so loud that they almost blew out the microphone, and the audio like peaks, and it gets super loud. And so I had to affect with that, and I had to compress it, and I had to change the peak level, and I had to find ways to make it sound like it's not destroying your ears, or that the microphone's getting blown up. The audio was a heck of an experience, especially when you have to with copyright. There were only so many things that I could leave in terms of songs. There is a point in the documentary where you see the entire set of the choir, and I was able to only do that. I couldn't do that with other show choirs, mainly for pacing, but also for copyright reasons of those songs. But doing that, I had to find a way to cut in between songs, and it's very hard to cut between songs, or to cut off a song and go into dialogue, or go from dialogue into the middle of a song without it sounding super weird and jarring. So I had to fade in audio. I had to find ways to change pitches and make it a seamless transition between everything. And I personally think I did a decent job at that, it never having done it before. But yeah, audio was almost a worse problem. Audio was probably the biggest problem I had in the entire filming, because audio almost caused the documentary to get canceled just because of how messed up it got. But luckily, it worked out. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I almost forgot. I almost erased it from my memory.
Well, certainly, your hard work has paid off, and I have actually caught a little bit of the film here and then. I happen to be very fond, as I told you, of performance art, and I think this is such a treat to see the creative process and also the learning process in this particular case of all these talented vocalists. And of course, another thing that I think is very interesting is, you actually have a familiarity with the performers, as well as the location and things of that nature. So, were there things you did have in mind that you absolutely had to include in this documentary, or else it was, a no go?
Well, first I brought the when I pitched the documentary, they have a boot camp performance where in the summer when the show choir learns the new set and they learn the dances and they learn what songs they're going to sing, they do a rough performance of everything that they've learned in that week before the school year starts so the audience can see kind of what the set is going to be going forward. And I brought the papers, but I was like, if this is a bad set, I'm not going to pitch it. But
Mhm.
luckily, and it's funny because the show choir is a Texas show choir, and their theme this year was Texas. And I saw that, and I was like, "This is the best set they've ever done." One, I'm jealous that they never did it when I was there, but also, this is like the perfect set for this doc. It's almost poetic the way it kind of panned out. And so I went up and I pitched it, and I was like, "Hey, this is great. Uh, please let me do this." And there were things that I absolutely needed, or at the time thought I needed. Um, but was able to work around later when they didn't pan out. One of the things I absolutely needed was one of the dance captains, and I got one, and that was a requirement. I was not interested in doing this if I couldn't have that perspective because they lead the choir, they'll have the most insight, they're usually the most knowledgeable in the choir about the inner workings of the dancing and the singing. And so I needed that perspective. And I also needed interesting stories to tell. So I sat down and I got with the students who wanted to potentially have a featured interview role in the documentary, and I listened to probably 50 different students give me their pitch of like, this is me, this is like my upbringing, this is how I got introduced to show choir, and kind of like my perspective on everything. And most of it was actually fairly interesting. Like everybody was coming from different cultures and different religions and different countries, and they had different aspects of life that they were bringing into it. And it ultimately gave me a bigger appreciation for the choir. It's like this is like this blend of so many cultures and people, and that gave me a bigger appreciation of that. But I realized that I had what I needed there. I was like, oh, I have an overabundance of these stories. I and then it got to the point where I had to only choose a couple of people, and that was hard because there were so many people that I wanted to join, and there were also people that I knew there too. So that was funny to see people that I thought were really good that I just didn't have space for, or people that I had been friends with for years, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't follow you, even though I love you and you're like one of my best friends. You can't be in this because I have to follow on certain things or certain themes I'm trying to hit, and I can't have stories that are too closely resembled. And I think we got a good mix that we have people who had uh, injuries in athletics. We had people who come up from like a religious upbringing. We have the dance captain. There's a bunch of different stories here, and I didn't want any form of crossover in stories, or else it would feel redundant or would feel repetitive. And I also needed well, I actually needed this in order to get the documentary greenlit, but I needed everybody to be willing to do it. I had to get signed, uh, contracts with, if the students were over 18, they could sign it themselves, but most of them weren't, and they had to get their parents' approval. And I was surprised that everybody signed it. I was like, there's 60 kids in this thing. At least one of them's not going to sign it, and then I can't get a green light. But for some reason, all of them did it. Everybody was super excited for it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Kind of worked out. Um, but that's about it. I can't think of things that were really like super necessary other than great students with very interesting stories to tell, and a great show choir as well, like a great theme to cover. Those are really the only two I needed, and I happened to get both of those two things. There were things that I thought I needed in the production, like getting certain subplots, like we talked about before, that didn't pan out, and I realized that I didn't actually need those. I just really wanted them, and I was able to make it work without them. But yeah, I mean, I really only needed those two things, and I got them both, and so it kind of worked out for me, I think.
Excellent. Well, thank you for answering my questions about your documentary. And of course, we've got to get this watch party started. I did just want to kind of give everybody a little brief interview with you so that they could get an idea of what to expect from the documentary. So everybody, the documentary that we are watching tonight, I am asking all of you to log into, you're going to see in the chat, there is a link to Voices of Central on YouTube, on King Tanik's, Israel's production company, King Tanik's YouTube channel. You're going to see that thing for Voices of Central. It will say Voices of Central, a show choir documentary, everybody. So please go to that. Israel and I are going to start. We're going to press play at the same time. And we're going to be commenting during the documentary. And of course, Israel, we hope to hear your thoughts and concerns or whatever, during the documentary. I'm going to say a few things as well. And for those of you who are either in the chat or who are watching the replay, want to watch along with us, please do so. I'm going to show the count up clock every once in a while, so you'll know where we are at through that. So everybody, please get your things ready. Your YouTube link, guys, chat in the description. Tom Jr. Jackson, I hope you have yours ready. So let's press play. 3, 2, 1, play.
All right.
Okay, so you have this introduction going into the documentary.
I do.
Okay.
I'm going to mention in this intro that I have captions. I don't. I'm still working on them. They're taking a long time, and I have other things I'm doing in the meantime. So.
Okay, thank you. And it's interesting you talk about this widescreen. That's actually happening in regular films, so we just doesn't look the same, but they are doing that now. I'm noticing the change from widescreen to another perspective a little bit more too.
I think it can maximize, if used properly, it can maximize the experience, and that was the goal with this. I don't know if it works, but that was the goal. All right, now the film should actually be starting.
Guys.
Fun fact, you can actually see me in this opening sequence. You can see me on the third from the left in the front row.
Okay.
That's me over there. Irene Jobson's asking, what year was the documentary filmed? It was filmed from fall 2021 to spring 2022. So last year. For the record, I did not film that opening sequence. That was footage I had to find online. Most of the rest of this is shot by me, though. This was not shot by me either. I had to find this.
Okay, so this is a competition. Okay.
Yes, that VOC just won grand champion.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we are not showing the documentary. The link is in the chat though. We're about 5 minutes and 45 seconds in right now.
And I'm just putting the link once again in the chat for you all to see. And it's free to watch.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of us who had those DVDs or VHS tapes, and that was all you had.
Yeah, I had Tarzan on VHS too. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So I'm sharing the time on the screen, guys. I'm going to pull it down just so you know where we are. We're at 7 minutes and around 37 seconds.
Chapter 1.
And Israel, are the captains expected to help many of the other performers who maybe lag behind or need help? Um,
Yes. It's not unusual to see a dance captain, one of the dance captains, take someone separate, while the other dance captain stays with the entire group to help that one person get caught up. We had one guy who joined in after boot camp because someone dropped out, and then he had to learn everything months behind the rest.
mhm,
And he did a great job because by the end of the year, you couldn't even tell that he was new. But that took a lot of like one-on-one with the dance captains.
mhm.
Yeah, something you'll notice is in this first half, I had never used a camera before, and so I bought a camera to film it, and I still have the camera. But a lot of this first half is an autofocus,
Mhm,
and then you'll notice I switched to manual focus later on, and it looks a lot better.
mhm.
Um, but there might be some questionable shots here and there.
I don't know, it looks pretty good to me.
I it might just because I know it, and I know what I'm looking for. They're asking for the timestamp again.
Yes, I will show you the timestamp. So big. I'll just put it up there.
Maybe leave it up for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I will. I'll leave it up.
Okay.
We'll just look smaller on the other side. Now, Israel, is this an activity for these students that it's additional time outside of their normal class time, isn't it?
Yes, they'll mention it, probably I think in a few moments, unless I cut it out. I'm pretty sure I left it in though. But they mention that yeah, most of their rehearsals are at 6:20 in the mornings, and they
Mhm,
do that about 3 times a week. And so a lot of them are in AP classes, and a lot of them, they mention it as well, are in theater. And so they'll be at school, and I did this when I was there. You'll be, some days you're at school from 6 a.m. to like 8 p.m., and then you go home and you have to do it all over again. And uh,
mhm.
these are very, very dedicated kids. It's not for the faint of heart to do this. Yeah, so that cut right there, that was two different times I filmed the same rehearsal because they re-rehearsed it again, and I synced up the audio so it was the same part of the song but from two different perspectives. There's a lot of cuts like that in here.
Mhm. Mhm. And guys, continue to ask questions in the chat. We'll respond to those questions. Irene has mentioned about her Odyssey of the Mind, um, and after school and on Saturday.
Uh, I don't know what Odyssey of the Mind is. Is that is that something I'm supposed to
Maybe it's a
know?
performance group that she was in as well. Guys, go ahead and share your experiences and what you're thinking so far of this incredible documentary.
Incredible, phenomenal. I should have sent it in for Oscar consideration. I
Well, definitely for competition. I mean, it's still depending upon what what you are looking for.
mean,
Um,
I've had people tell me to submit it to film festivals. I don't think I'm going to, at least for this one. I might the next project maybe. Um, I don't know if this is good for film festivals. Honestly, I don't know if this is good enough.
I think it is. I think it is. I've seen people make films for the first time, and they're not as good as this, all of them. So, and they submit them. So it's something to think about.
I'll think it probably if I do it'll probably be like probably not this year. I don't know if you're allowed to submit it for a film festival after it's like been released, but um
Robert would know. I think you are. As long there's a rule, there's some special rule, and I don't know all the rules, but I do look into it because it is really wonderful.
thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. It's just another person to tell me to go submit it for festival stuff. So, hey, maybe if 3,000 more people tell me, I'll finally do it. I thought that was funny because he was just talking about like you can't waste time in rehearsal, and then I immediately cut to them like wasting time. He hated that when he first saw it. Stravos, what's this about? This is about a show choir called Voices of Central. Um, I follow them throughout the school year and film their journey, their turmoils, their tribulations that they go through. Um, and yeah, Irene's asking, are show choirs typically so large? The varsity ones usually. Um, Most of them, I would say no. Most of them are probably around the 30 count. Because it takes a lot of money to do a show choir like that, and you need to have a lot of students willing to do it. Um, but but VOC is kind of like an anomaly in Texas. But if you go to Los Angeles or to New York, those states have show choirs of like 80. It's crazy.
And Irene Jacobin says about the Odyssey of the Mind, she says, we did mental work, like we recreated Starry Night and made a play that came to life. That sounds
Ooh,
wonderful, Irene. Thank you for sharing that.
that sounds cool.
Mhm.
I love plays. I directed a play. That was my directorial debut. I did it my junior year. Has to do with anime as well. I adapted an anime called Clanad, and I turned it into a 40-minute one-act play, and we competed with it. We didn't win. We didn't even move past the first round, but it was fun. It was a good learning experience. And
It sounds like fun, and it would be interesting to talk about that too one of these
yeah,
days.
that's also on the channel, so we can watch that as well. But
Yes.
it's bad. I'll completely own that because, oh man, yeah, no. I oddly lettered in Odyssey of the Mind, but a lot of people don't know about it.
Well, we know.
We know, yes, we're this tight unit that knows the elites.
And of course, you're the parents, and it's really the whole community a lot of times who are doing this, right? Israel, who are
Mhm.
supporting everybody, and my kid is in there too. And there's a lot of late nights, as you mentioned, a lot of weekend work, a lot of hours working on costumes and sets that go into this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's almost like the choir itself is like a family, but then you see a lot of similar faces in the audiences as well, and it feels like it's when it's performances, it's like this giant family reunion of like 400 people, um, and it's always great. They're super supportive. Um, it, it- it's it really helps when you have parents that support you in doing something like this because it's expensive and the kids don't have jobs, so the parents have to pay for it. But I think when they see the end product, and I think when they see how well the students come out of it, because they're surrounded by all these great people and these great um, you know I guess influences, that they come out really great, well-rounded people at the end. And so it's almost like it was worth the investment. And you got like tenfold what you invested in. I mean, my mom did it, multiple times, even when she was having to pay for it herself. Um, and that was super great. And even when it would cause like her like stress to pay for it, she still did it because she saw the benefits of it, and she saw how much I enjoyed it. And I really appreciate that. Mom, if you're watching. I think she's at work right now, but yeah, their outfits are great, Irene. And the wait till you see their second costumes, because every show choir has a costume change. At least most of them.
I'll put up Irene's lettering too.
I never did cheerleading, but I mean, maybe it's just because the cheerleaders at my school sucked. But I was like, why are they in that? Like, what are they doing over there? But I mean, there's some cheerleaders that are like where they do like the craziest things, ever, the craziest stunts, and they're creating like these structures, and it takes a lot of those cheerleaders. While they look like super like skinny and fit, and then they're all muscle. Those
Yes.
girls are strong.
Yeah. And you have to sign a waiver for that one. That's like a sport, so that's a little bit more. Honestly, there's a chance you can't, like it's a physical thing. I like show choir in particular because it is for me, it's a musical, but it's literally you're doing a whole musical. That's how I
Mhm.
view it. Um, and there is that participation of you not just doing the musical, but you're also interacting with your surroundings in a different way
Mhm.
than if you were on Broadway. Maybe you're not going to be the one moving the sets, but a lot of times the students are doing all that stuff.
Mhm.
So it's so incredibly interactive. Uh, and you have to love it and be creative and yes. Irene talks about throwing people in the air. Yeah, that's
That's
and
dangerous.
I there is an element of danger in cheer,
Mhm.
and, as I always say, never practice in your backyard, always always do it in the gym where there's padding, that's all I have to say.
Mhm. Unless you can put a mattress outside.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how some of my friends learned, like, gymnastics, is they would practice, like, on the concrete, but they would put a mattress over it first, so
Yes.
that if they fell, they didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, show choir, I mean, I know people. I know the creator of Voices of Central, because I also pitched it to her to make sure I got her blessing
Yes.
to do it. But we got to talking a little bit, and she, being like in the inner circle of the show choir world as a whole on a national level, she's seeing a change and a pivot in the show choir world, that it's actually going towards more of a musical theater route than
Mhm.
just a performance. Like, here's a dance and a song. Now it's like sets are coming out. Sometimes there's dialogue, and it'll be interesting to see where show choir goes in like the next 10 years. I might do a sequel. That'd be funny.
Yeah, we'd love to see that, and, I have to agree with you on this Israel that for me, when I see show choir, it's a musical because of what the students are expected to do.
Hmm.
It's as if you were in a musical. So it's a combination of so many things. Um, it's intense. And I think that you captured a lot of that here um in this film. Oh, Irene.
Oof. Oof.
And
No.
Irene is asking about male and female leads, or male and female in show choir. I have
Mhm.
no idea. I've seen a good mix of both in my lifetime. What about you, Israel?
It depends on the school. If it's an all-girls school, the show choir is obviously going to be all girls. If it's an all-boys school, same thing. Um, in most cases, the goal is 50-50, 1-to-1. Um, but I think after I graduated, the classes that were coming up after, there was like a lack of boys that wanted to do fine arts. And so for like 2 years after I had graduated, there was just this drop off of guys. And so I think there was a little bit of a comeback in this school year. And I think it's about a 60-40 here. And I think it's closer to 50-50 now, the show choir now. Um, but the goal is usually 1-to-1. The JV group is an all girls group in this documentary. They're usually supposed to be a 50-50 group, but that was how many boys did not join. But yeah, the goal is uh, half and half because of there's partner dances for choreography reasons, and for also sound. You want a full choir, especially if you're varsity, because you're going for those vocal awards as well as choreography. Um, but it depends on the school, and it depends on the students that are there to audition. Oh, you went to Miami before, Irene? That's dope. Yeah, we go to Orlando in the documentary. Like the third act, if you want to call it that, takes place entirely in Orlando. Um, so that's pretty fun. So we do go to Florida, but that's cool. I've never been to Miami. We were in Orlando. We were like 15 minutes away from like the what are they called? The like Disney World, or like
Mhm.
Orlando or Hollywood Studios. And I couldn't go because I paid too much money to make this documentary and I didn't have any more funds left. But the students got to go. Um, but and they got to tell me a little bit about that. But yeah, I wanted to go. I luckily I still have it. It's hanging up. My sister went, and because she's in the show choir, and
Mhm.
she brought me back a Sith cloak from
Oh,
Disney World. So that was very nice of her.
that
Yeah,
is.
that's her right there. You can see with the big curls, kind of bleached hair. You
Ah.
got engaged at Hollywood Studios? What? That's dope.
And Rob Korzak, yes, we are watching a film called Voices of Central. It is Israel King's documentary that came out last year, and you can find the link in the chat to watch it on YouTube along with us. We are at 27 minutes.
Merritt Island. Do those people usually have merit? I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. I, anyways, I heard at Hollywood Studios for a while you could go and see like the animators at work. Like you could look in the windows and see them actually like working on the next film. I I mean, if that's the case, I maybe I'll have to go just to spy on them because that sounds cool.
It does.
Yes, this is Voltage, the junior varsity group of the same school. And you see the expansion of the ratio.
Yes, I do notice a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it helps with like the immersion, but that was the goal. Because
Mhm.
I wanted them to I wanted the choirs to feel as big as possible. Um,
And I think it's very interesting to see, many of these young performers kind of transition into having a stronger performance art ability, which I'm sure you're noticing, and we're seeing here in this film, in this documentary. Guys, we are watching Voices of Central right here on the Burr Network, filmed by Israel, who is right here with us, watching along,
Hello.
answering your questions about the film. So please do ask, continue to ask, and we are at 29 minutes.
I would wear my hoodie, my merch for the thing, but it's hot in this house already, so no. Are your sisters huge show choir fans or fine arts fans too? Gotta spread the word, get it shared. Come on. We're pushing for a last minute Oscar nomination. I love this part. This music, like I got it off of Storyblocks, but
Mhm.
in editing, it kind of just so happened to like match perfectly with the edits that were made and like it kind of synced to the music. And this became one of my favorite sequences. And it's just them like praying and preparing to go on the stage. And it feels like the most movie part to me.
Yeah, these candid shots of them are really magical. You can see their level of concentration, but also their intention here moments before they're going on Israel. It is really, really wonderful. As well as the instructors.
Yeah, I mean, right there where he transfers what he's talking about, you hear the music change with it, and that was completely unintentional. I edited it and then laid the music underneath, and it just so happened to happen at the exact same time, and it kind of once again kind of perfectly worked out. One plays the piano, and then the other she just took her
Oh, her
LSATs.
are these your kids, Irene? Is that who she was talking?
Sisters. Or
Oh, nice.
whatever the lawyer test is. Oh, your sister gonna be a lawyer?
The
Great.
LSAT.
Oh,
That is the
LSAT.
LSAT, isn't it?
I mean,
It's the
that's what
LSAT.
she
You're correct, Irene. I'm sorry, Israel.
that's what she wrote. I don't know what the LSAT is. I didn't study.
Law school admission test.
Oh, that sounds boring. I didn't go to college. Sorry, I'm very uneducated on the terms.
Well,
Uh,
you're not uneducated. You went to high school.
well, but on like the terms, like I didn't know what that was. I read it
Oh,
and I
you
was
mean
like,
the entrance exams? Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's not that
Yeah.
important.
Like if you weren't here, I would have no idea what that comment meant. But one plays the piano. That's cool. I had a friend who I can play some songs on the piano. I had a friend who completely taught himself the piano from
Wow.
scratch, and I watched him do it over the course of like 2 years at the school. And he didn't have one at his house. He would only rehearse in the choir room when no one was in there. And I watched him go from like someone who just had an interest in the piano and just wanted to play some of his favorite songs. So like now he's writing songs on the piano and he's meeting producers in LA. It's it was fascinating to watch. That's a documentary in and of itself, but it's already happened.
Well, what's interesting about all this is to see the support that the students have for one another as well here. There's a huge amount of support in this community, and it is a morale booster for other creators to keep going. Not everybody feels great on the day of performance, on performance day, but that sometimes that support can inspire you to do your best.
Everything you're talking about was a lot of it was originally in here. You know, we saw examples of a lot of that stuff, but it was one of those things that killed the pacing. And it was like, yes, this adds to the stuff you feel for the choir, but it kills it, and it would cause some people to get bored and leave. And maybe I'll do a director's cut and release that full 3 hour cut. I personally think it's unwatchable, but who knows? Maybe it's the better cut.
And Irene says this is a great documentary.
I knew I liked you, Irene.
And
Thank you.
follows up with, look how proud they are. And I couldn't agree with you more, Irene.
You did band. Nope, don't like you anymore, Irene. Band's so boring.
What?
You know, it was like a thing in this, like, you know how in like in
What?
Greece and stuff, there's like these cliques, like
Oh,
these
I see what you're saying.
enemies. It was like you had choir and theater
Uh-huh.
banded together against band.
In the school I went to, everybody was in alpha. I went to all girls, and the more you did, that was equated as being better. So everybody was in like 5 or 6 different activities, and they're like, "Oh, but you're not in this," you know. So I was in a few. It's interesting. This is so encouraging. She played trombone. Okay. And you know something,
Trombone. This is just L
Israel,
after L you're taking, Irene. I'm very disappointed.
you know, seeing the amount of work, as we were saying and talking about, here's one of the other um directors, the educators or teachers, whatever you want to call them, with the students here. And it's so important, them being able to get instruction from instructors like this. Um, you know, I'm also impressed with how the instructors are relating to these young performers and helping them to give these performances that are extraordinary.
They are professionals, and one of the great things about this documentary was I came back. They hadn't seen me in 2 years because one, COVID happened, and then also I graduated, and so I came back and I pitched it to them. And throughout the course of the school year, not only did I get to watch the relationships and the students grow, but I also, my relationship with the directors grew, and now I can like with full confidence call like all of them good friends of mine now. And so that became fun because it went from like a because I knew them my freshman year, you know. It
Mhm.
went from the student teacher relationship to now we're like peers. And we're good friends. The male director, Nick Chabot, he's actually one of my good friends. I can talk to him about anything. This documentary really bonded us. Yay, trophies. Yes, Irene. Trophies. Trophies.
Yeah, a lot of focus recently had been going into, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with a lot of focus going into esports. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I do like this, continuing focus on performing arts. I think it's so important for other students to also see that, especially in a documentary like this, Israel, where there are going to be students who are either unaware or don't have access to this, and it's really important for them to see things like this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said when I earlier during the Q&A, that one of the pitches or the original concept of it was I was in the choir and I was like, why is no one like sharing this? Why is no one talking about this? Um and then I figured I'd do it myself because I felt that there was, you know, magic, and that there was something that needed to be shared with other people. Um what are the ages of the varsity group? It's freshman through um senior. It's not I know what you're asking for because there are some varsity show choirs that have a limit at what age you can join. A lot of sports do that too, where it's like you can't even try out until you're like a sophomore or a junior. But this is all talent based. If you have what it takes to be in the choir, you can go straight in from your freshman year. There are very few that do. Most people end up going to the JV first and then move up, but there are a few that are first years. Usually the dance captains are first years, except me. I broke that trend because I joined my sophomore year.
And were you a dance captain, Isreal?
I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I something I found very interesting. It was like it's almost like Game of Thrones, like the way it was revealed to me. But I found out before the year that I became dance captain. Before that, I found out that the directors were actually grooming me to become dance captain, and they had been doing that for a few years. And I was like, "Wait, you knew that I was gonna be dance captain?" And they're like, "Yeah," and we were like preparing you for it. And I was like, "How did you know that?" And I guess that comes with the job, is you can just see what that certain students have, what it takes, and then you try to bring it out of them. Can we
Interesting.
see some of those smooth moves you did in the opening scene? You saw me dancing. I can't dance anymore. Don't ask me.
It is nice to see a little bit of the downtime of the students at school, and
Yeah, this was at like 10 p.m. after the first day of the competition. And
mhm.
so a lot of them, instead of going home to sleep because they had to be back at like 7 the next day, they decided to stay and start getting an early preparation on their stuff. These kids are so passionate about everything they do. That boy was so happy. That boy who came down and he was like dancing as he got his trophy or his medal. That's one of my favorite shots in the documentary because of how happy he was. Oh, you miss school too? I miss school in the sense that I miss this part of school. I don't miss class unless it was like my directing class. I would skip classes to prepare for directing classes. It was other than that, no. No math, no science. Get that out of here. English, I like stories, so yeah, but no. No class. 2006, where did you go? What do you mean? What happened in 2000? I was 4 in 2006. I probably went to pre-K. I don't know. I don't know what you're asking. Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Please clarify, Irene, for us.
Oh, that's when you graduated. Mm,
Yeah, 2006, comma, where did you go?
okay. Commas are our friends. Um, wow. Wow, I didn't realize I was that much younger than you, Irene. You got such a youthful spirit. You're 36? I don't believe it.
No way.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Um, where did I went to this school, Keller Central High School. Um, I switched to Keller ISD in middle school,
Mhm.
and before that, I was in Birdville.
Now, let me ask you this question, Israel. And of course, we know the performance arts programs around the country can vary from place to place. Is Texas friendly to performance arts programs in schools, or is like the funding not there? What is the experience like there?
Yes, to that question, it's a little bit of both. I think it's growing. I think on a mass level, the fine arts in Texas is I don't know if it's the worst in the country, but it's not as pristine as other places. There are a few schools and a few places in Texas that do that. Like Keller ISD one is one of those districts. Mansfield, Texas City. There are a few places like that. But in general, it's typically it's not the first place you think of when you think fine arts. And so I think there's a reworking happening right now in schools where they are putting more of the budget in fine arts. Because when I joined, all of the budget was in the athletics, which was funny because I can't remember the last time our football team won a game. So I don't know what they were doing. But now, after I graduated, they've updated the auditorium. They're expanding the fine arts stuff in the schools. So I think they're realizing that this is their real cash cow in some of these schools where a lot of your funding can come from.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is something to think about. And I'm hoping, that like I mentioned to you with Coda and perhaps your film, it'll kind of boost and re-inspire districts to throw more money towards the performing arts.
I mean, I thank you for comparing my film to Coda. That's very nice. I appreciate
Well,
that because
it's too much of a coincidence that they have a similar theme, except yours is the real life example of students and performers who want to become performers and watching that process. And it's quite a coincidence, that your film came out in the same year as or more or less around the same time, being made
mm,
around the same time as Coda. So I can't help but make the
I
comparison.
mean any comparison, regardless of context, to Coda, I will take because I love Coda. Coda's great. It wasn't my favorite movie of that year, but I loved it, and it was deserving of Best Picture, I think.
Well,
Um,
what's interesting about it is that I think people want to see happy stories. And who doesn't love that story of where she meets this teacher who inspires her to go for it, so to speak. And that actor, I can't remember his name, but he's brilliant. I felt like he should have also received an award for his performance
yeah,
because he was so remarkable in that, to bring out something he knew was in this student, but it just hadn't come out yet. And I think that we see that process here. Maybe this Voices of Central is more elite performers, if you will, but certainly it is wonderful to see this blossoming of talent
mhm.
in a film like yours, and people enjoy that. This is bringing us joy in that regard, and I really do think it's important for people to see what's going on in these different programs throughout the country. So it does have relevance to me, but also to other people who promote the performing arts.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, the thing about Coda is it when I watched it, it almost felt like not that it's a bad thing, but it felt like it was such a simple story that I'm still baffled that it won Best Picture. Like, let alone a nomination. And not to say that I don't think it's deserving. I loved that movie. It was one of my favorites of the year, but it didn't seem like the type of movie the Academy would nominate. And so the fact that they did, I think, was a very good mark for the for kind of the view on like those types of stories and fine arts as a whole and everything like you were saying. I can't reword it because you already did it so great. I'm just gonna ruin it if I try to. But but yeah, I mean it. I think that fine arts is it's always been such a big thing, but I think people are realizing that you don't have to be a certain type of person to do it. You know, you don't have to be the most attractive person or conventionally attractive person to do it. You don't have to be in all these checked off boxes that you would think of when you originally think of like, you know, I guess what the Western idea of a celebrity is or whatever. You can just do it. And in this day and age, I mean, we're still working there. It's not completely perfect, but there's a lot of opportunity for everybody as long as you have the talent. And I love that about this group is that there's so many people who like 30 years ago you wouldn't see in this type of choir, but now they're all together and like a complete tight knit family. And it's great.
Yeah, that is pretty important to see that. And you mentioned how fortunately all everybody did sign a waiver so that you could film them. And to be honest with you, I think years ago that would be something that a lot of people would have said no to.
Hmm.
Maybe 10 years ago that would have been no way. But things I think have changed. And I think that a lot of these performances that people don't get to see overall, it's wonderful that you've preserved this, especially for them. And maybe there's a parent or two who's filming what's going on, and the competitions get filmed for sure. But it is nice to see a lot of these performances, a lot of things that we haven't. Not everybody can get to see a performance. Gee, there's a lot of people who don't even have access to those paid channels, or I guess everybody has PBS, but even so, a lot of these performances get lost along the way and we don't see them. So I really do think it's important to preserve a lot of this, to preserve a lot of the this process of developing your craft.
Hmm. I mean, to add to that, I mean, the main reason why I did the contracts and the waivers was not just because I was going to be filming the competitions, but because I was going to be following them, and they were going to be an active part of it. Like I was like, hey, you have to be comfortable being on camera if you're going to sign this. I might not pick you out, but if you're doing something and you just happen to be on frame, I want you to make sure that you're comfortable with that. But I think that it, I think that, like you were saying, with not only with performances, because so many people don't have the opportunity to see things like this, but I think what's arguably even more important is uh, the process around the performances, and seeing that these are just everyday people. These aren't like some, I guess 1% first class type people that are super rich and super privileged. These are people who just had a dream, were willing to put in the effort to do it, and ultimately did it. And I think that it can be super encouraging. And I hope that there are people in any state, but even I hope that there was at least one kid in middle school who saw VOC perform and they were like, I can never do that. They're too good. And then maybe they saw this documentary and realized they're just like me. And maybe that encouraged them to try out. That's like my dream with this, is that that type of effect can be had on people.
And I think somebody's saying they loved your anime. I'm assuming that's what this is. Ninja Squirrel 30
Anime.
for stopping by. We are watching Voices of Central, Israel's documentary on the Voices of Central. And thank you for stopping by and saying hello, Ninja Squirrel 30.
The Otaku Experience.
Yes, the
Check
Itaku
it out.
experience.
Woo. Irene's saying, my sister did theater in high school in the 2000s. I
Oh,
hope my kids will want to pursue many things.
mhm.
Uh, but, I mean, I auditioned for American. You auditioned for American Idol. Wow,
That is impressive.
that's I could never. I'm too scared.
I don't know anybody who auditioned for American Idol. Do you?
I know a friend who auditioned for The Voice.
Oh, wow.
He didn't make it, or he didn't get to the point where he would be on the show, but he auditioned. Um,
Mhm.
and then yeah, I mean, I would say as a kid who was able to pursue different things and who wanted to, I mean, you can't control what your kid does, but I mean, just have an open mind, be accepting to what the kid has an interest in. If you see, I think my parents saw that I had an abnormal interest in movies, and how glued I was to the screen, literally glued like this close from the screen. And they ultimately filtered that, or added to it,
Mhm.
and it kind of helped me see where I wanted to go. And if I think we need more parents like that who know when to know when to say no to their kid, but also know when to say yes, because there's a lot of potential there.
And Paul from Long Beach. Hello, Paul from Long Beach says, cheers, all. Hope you are doing well. Have a great Super Bowl. Same to you, Paul in Long Beach. Great to see you. Hope you and your family are well.
Let's go Chiefs, and also Transformers TV spot. Come on now.
Uh-huh.
Come on now.
And so here they're obviously announcing the winners, right?
Hmm.
Israel. Mm.
Yes.
Yes.
They love Pokemon and art, so I buy them art kits and Pokemon. Yeah, good. Now, I mean, if they like show an interest in like, I don't know, let's say hypothetically they show an interest in like drugs. I don't know that, but that's like an extreme example of like to not not filter, not give them that. But but yeah, I mean, if they, I mean, potentially you could. I'm not saying that this is the case, but you could have with how much they love Pokemon and art, you could be looking at a future like anime
Hmm.
artist or
That's right.
whatever. I mean, so I mean, just keep filtering that. Oh wow, we're already halfway over.
Yeah, it's going by fast. Okay, guys, and we're up to chapter 4, about halfway through, or maybe a little more than halfway through this documentary, Voices of Central, guys.
This is where things get real.
Oh my gosh. They are incredibly talented, Irene.
Yeah, I mean, they 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 talk about it, or they'll talk about it here in a second. But where's my napkins? My hands are sticky. Anyways, I have hand sanitizer. It's okay. But yeah, they mention it in a bit here. But when you go to a national competition, you don't just go, you don't reach out or anything like that. You have to be invited to go. And so the fact that these places are, and Heart of America, once again, it's mentioned here in a bit, but it's the most prestige national competition you can go to. The fact that Voices of Central has been nominated multiple times, it's a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely, everybody. This is just such an incredible documentary to see the journey here in the lives of these young performers. Please do give us your comments and thoughts in the chat. And if you have any questions for Israel, please do ask them. We have them for about an hour more as the documentary continues here live.
Your dragon, is that what you call your kid, or like a pet dragon? Because my family has a dragon. I don't like it. I call him the lizard, the reptile. He's a disgrace.
So this is so this is the other half of the competition, let's say Israel, and they're going on now, and it's the stakes are even higher. Am I correct?
Um, this is every competition beforehand was in Texas. This is the out of state national competition. This is what the entire school year has been building up to.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a given that Voices of Central will place #1 in Texas because they do it every year. But when it comes to the out of state, that's when they just add to it. Your son, okay, cool, All right, I'll allow that. If you had a pet dragon, we may have had to revoke your membership or something.
Okay, so this is another team. Like, what did you describe it as? The leader?
Dance captain.
Yes. Is that young woman one of the dance captains
Yes,
there?
she was the other dance captain. That is Marissa. She's also one of my very close friends, and she actually starred in my play that I directed that I mentioned earlier. And so she's like, out of the major things I've done, she's like the constant so far. We'll see if we can keep that tradition up. Maybe give her a cameo in the next thing I do.
I have snacks too. I'm just gonna.
I was eating some Starburst minis.
Oh, those are good. Those are very good.
It's the only way to eat Starburst. You don't have to unwrap it. You don't get the bad flavors.
And you really can tell the students are having fun here.
Yeah, it's yeah. I'm almost like I almost don't want to like answer your questions because I'm so enraptured in the documentary because I love these kids so much. But yeah, no, you're at they're so great. I mean, and I think it helped that they knew me because they were comfortable enough to be able to do. I feel like if some professional person came in, they might be a little more try to put on their best face or not be as open to certain things, but they were just being themselves in front of me. Yeah, so right here, being the most difficult of the four competitions, the only way you get in is invitation. Yeah, so the fact that VOC was even invited to this, wow. Oh, we have 20 watching now. Where did y'all come from? We had 10 a second ago. Do we want to maybe replace the link? Because I think it may have
I
gotten lost up there.
I shall do that, guys. I'm going to put the link here. And guys, this is the link to the documentary we're watching right now called Voices of Central Israel's documentary, everybody. We are at 1 hour, 28 seconds. Please do join us in watching. You can watch it on YouTube for free. Voices of Central Watch Party right here on the Burr Network.
Yeah, it's funny. So a lot of this documentary, like up till now, was like the entire school year before. The rest, not the rest, but most of the rest of the documentary is at this one competition. So there's a lot here, and there was a lot I could have left in too. There was a lot I filmed. They always look so amazing. I mean, that's the goal of like all the makeup and hair stuff they put in their hair and the costumes. I mean, that's the goal. So I'm glad that paid off. I mean,
Mhm.
I would like to say thank you, but I mean, I didn't do the costumes or the makeup, but thank you.
Well, at one time you did do that when you were
I
part.
mean, like design it or
Mhm.
do it
Yes,
like
I
I,
understand what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll still say thank you because I'm egotistical, but I didn't do it. You know what? You're right, Irene. I did film them and I made them look good on camera. So you know what? I will take 100% credit for how they look. Thank you.
Well, I think you did a great job of building everything up to this moment, Israel. It does feel like they've gone from milestone to milestone to milestone in the documentary, and now this would be sort of like more of the climatic moment in the film that we're expecting to come up pretty soon. I'm guessing.
Yes. Thank you. That means the editing worked and my cutting things out worked. I do feel like the pacing of this is near perfect. I think that this documentary moves really fast and it's very tight. I only left in what needed to matter. Um or what mattered and so I appreciate that because that means that my intention worked out. And yes, the climax is we're just about there.
Yeah, this is something too, and that the importance of your emotional commitment to a song and a performance, and what it means to get up there and to do this singing. It's performance art wise, it's more than just singing the words on the paper.
Mhm. Usually they try to connect it to something personal. Or my senior year, we saw it at the beginning. We did a set called Karate Kid, where we just took the movie Karate Kid and turned it into a show choir set. And so we were able to use the storyline and feed that into the ballad and derive emotion from that. But in a show like this, where there's no story and you're just showing the good parts of Texas, you have to find something personal to connect it to. And so the way they connected it was they had the students think of like all the support they've had, and are they dedicating the song to maybe the people around them or the people at home who couldn't come to it, or whatever. The working of moving around and trying not to look winded is amazing. Dude, I don't know how you're about to see it in a few minutes here. I love how Leanne's about to cry right there. But uh yeah, I mean, we thought it was hard in my year. This year, I don't know what they've done. They destroyed everything. And then the year currently, I've only seen their boot camp performance, but their choreography is next level. I'm like, where do you have time to sing or breathe?
And
And so,
this
yeah,
is
I
this
mean, you'll
where
see it in a second with the full
oh, I'm
run through,
sorry.
but
Go
it
ahead.
is nonstop.
This is where I personally equate it to being in a musical, Israel. This is what happens in those rehearsals where, they may not be singing as they're dancing, but the expectation is that they have to sing during that performance and dance. And this is what we're seeing here, with almost every performer engaged at the same level. It's a lot of engagement. And I think that that is why it's so incredibly impressive to see it, in this way, as this is a concert style, if you will, concert style performance, but it's given as if it's a musical, in place, if you will. So it certainly is very impressive to see this level of engagement, as if the entire chorus is coming alive. In a lot of these musicals, maybe one or two people will be singing at a time. Everybody's singing here, everybody's dancing here, everybody's moving here. It really is a lot of fun to watch this.
I mean, another thing, I mentioned it before, how the creator of Voices of Central was talking about the change in the show choir world and the landscape of it. One of the things is that a lot of show choirs, on top of drifting away from just everybody sings and dances and it's going towards a more musical theater type thing, a lot of choirs are actually drifting away from guys and girls numbers, which means that there's less breaks for the singers involved. And then there's also less solos, so they're keeping the choir as a whole more involved. It's very interesting to see.
It certainly is, and I think that, a direction like that, not only, is, very interesting to watch in this type of a setting, but, it certainly does keep you as a performer constantly engaged. So, there's never sort of like that time where you're waiting for your part to come up, or you're kind of on the side, and, that doesn't exist here. Especially if you're a parent and you're watching this, your child is performing the same level everyone else is, pretty
Hmm.
much. It is pretty amazing to see that, and I think it's also fantastic in training, young performers, for their next stage, whatever it may be in the performing arts. So that's important too.
I mean, they walk on stage and they're timed, and if they go over their time limit, they're immediately disqualified. And so they go on stage, and the way they're setting up stuff, and they have to walk around and look and be in character as they're setting things up on stage. But they're also in a rush. They get no break for like 30 minutes straight in these things. It's incredibly impressive.
And these, declarations, or these the honest feelings from the performers here are so inspiring,
Mhm.
talking about how much this means to them, but also essentially, from what I'm seeing, their community of performers means to them here, I think is so profound because it's been
Mm.
life changing for them, hasn't it?
Yeah, and they only allowed the seniors to talk for this part because it was their last time. Um, and yeah, I know these kids, so I'm getting emotional with them. Uh, but but it and having gone through it as well, it changes you. It's some of the best years of your life that you'll always remember those moments. And fun fact, the girl who's about to talk right here, this is actually my little sister, and this was her senior year as
Oh
well.
my gosh. Oh, she's so beautiful. Oh.
Here we go.
All right.
That's a little something that they always do before they go on. They'll always do like consonants to make sure their diction is right. They'll do like a V and be like v, and then the other side will repeat, and they'll just go back and forth, and they'll do that before they go on. It's a little tradition they have. I should have had this guy narrate it. He's great. I like the slow expansion of the picture. Yeah, I think there's a few cuts in the opener because we've seen it so many times throughout the documentary, but most of the other songs I left pretty much intact. So, but yeah, it's completely nonstop. They just go forever. It's crazy. It reminds me of the Voices of Liberty they have at Epcot Disney. Once again, I would not know because I I wasn't able to go, but I mean, cool. I mean, if it reminds you of something, great. I'm happy. I don't know what you're referencing, but let me just look it up real quick. Voices. Oh, this is cool. It's like a little crew of like 10 people, and they have different costumes and looks like they perform different things at Disney. Just a little looks like a cappella. That's cool. Dude, his facial expressions, man. I love Dylan. They perform in the same hall as where the Hall of Presidents are. They are fantastic. I've seen videos of them. I've only seen pictures because I just looked it up 2 seconds ago. But that's it. It looks cool. It looks fun. They look like professionals, so I might just have to check them out. Oh, here's my nemesis. This guy kept blocking my shots. I think he was the official
Oh,
recorder for the
videographer or something
competition.
like that?
Yeah,
I'm
for the
sorry.
competition itself, and then he, I guess, he didn't know who I was, but no, but yeah, I guess me and him saw the same different parts of like where really interesting stuff was happening, and we kept filming the same stuff, and so he would kept blocking my shots, but boo on him. No, he's just doing his job. I do have to run to the restroom real quick, so I will be right
Sure,
back.
no problem.
Right back.
You have a picture to put on of your face or something?
How do I do that?
Don't worry about it, don't worry. I thought maybe you did, but I'll
Oh,
be
hold
here
on.
when you come back. I'll just take it down. Don't worry about it, Israel. I'll do
And I found a very funny picture. Hang on. I think it worked. Oh yeah.
Well, guys, I hope you are enjoying this watch party of Voices of Central as much as we are. These beautiful performances by this show group is just remarkable. And thank you for those of you who are watching along. You can find the link in the description. We are at 1 hour and 17 minutes. We do have Israel with us, the maker of this documentary. And it has been just a wonderful night watching these performances here. I hope you're enjoying it too. Yeah, I agree, Irene. They are so amazing, and so many kids are so dedicated to making this a success in this performance. It is remarkable what they've done here.
Okay. I'm back. And I threw on my merch, guys.
Nice,
VOC,
guys.
get your merch.
Do go to Israel's YouTube channel, King Tannic, and you can find his merch there as well as more videos, including this documentary, Voices of Central. Well, I'm enjoying the performance here, Israel. It's so beautiful.
I watched this performance probably 100 plus times throughout the course of the year, and I never got tired of it. It's such a good set, and they just kept getting better at it too, and it's incredible to witness.
That was just so lovely.
I actually directed these two because they knew I'm a director, and so they asked me for help to choreograph this. I don't know if they listened, but we'll find out.
I think some of it rubbed off, Israel.
Hopefully. That shimmy was on point. I'm glad you like the shimmy. She didn't listen to me. He did though. Audrey doesn't listen to me. That's a constant in mine and her relationship.
That is right, Irene. Hair toss, check my nails.
I'm watching them take such deep breaths during the dance break because it's the only time they can breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so tired at this point. You can tell.
To be honest with you, I think that their level of concentration here is it intensifies as you get tired. So that I can't tell personally that they're exhausted. I know it's tiring, but I can't tell that they're
I mean,
exhausted.
that
So
that's
there
the
is
goal is
that.
they want the audience to not even think about it. I mean, and we had our sets never got this difficult where it was this nonstop. We had breaks, but yeah, there's so much breathing you have to work on. There were times when they would just have us run laps around the auditorium while singing the songs just so we could practice getting that breath work done. There
Mhm.
were times when we in our school we had these big stairs in the middle of the school going all the way up to the fourth floor straight up, and sometimes they would have us run up and back down, and it kills you, but it's training that you need to have in order to be able to sing, because they can sing on their own and they can dance on their own fine, but once you add it, it's like
Mhm.
impossible unless you train right.
Well, I think that's very important to talk about the conditioning that we're referring to separately and together are three different elements, Israel. And here we're seeing it at its peak when it's done correctly and when, let's say, it's done to fruition. And a lot of times in the professional world, this is expected, especially in theater. This is what they're expecting, and we can see that these young performers have that ability. It's impressive because it's not easy. We watch films like this, Israel, and wonder how they're made, and they're made just like what we're seeing here, what these young performers are doing. So that there is that.
It is so hard. Uh, Broadway, just as an example, those people at Broadway, they're built different. They are anomalies in human genetics because they have everything going right in order to be able to do the same thing over and over every night at that level. And then, like you said, on film, like when I saw West Side Story, I was watching those dance breaks and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, luckily they have cuts so they can use different takes and maybe only dance a certain amount at a time. But when you do those big sprawling epic numbers in one take, or like on Broadway where there's no breaks, it those people are a different breed of human. Yeah, and Chabot is he's sweaty. He's drenched by the end too, because he's going ham on the like directing the band too. Like
Well,
everybody goes so hard in VOC.
Israel, you have to just fall in love with this performance. I mean, I know you've seen it a lot, but um, you absolutely have to fall in love with this performance. As you said, you've seen it more than once, but seeing this in this context and the way that it's presented is very different than if I went to it and watched it. In this particular documentary, what an accomplishment, and how exciting it feels to get to this point, to see the level of performance that this group has. It's so impressive and really just so incredible to watch. It's just really wonderful what you've done here.
I mean, maybe I'm just being too humble, but I almost don't even attribute any of that to me because I just filmed what they do normally, and it I think it just goes to show how much everyone involved of the like the students and the directors, how professional they are and how talented they are and how they really are something special. And I was just lucky enough to film it. I just had the privilege to put it on camera.
Well, I also do want to mention too is that, as you know, obviously many of these performers are interested in maybe professional careers, and I think it's interesting. There, you and I were talking about opportunity for students to have something as special as an opportunity to be, a member of a group like this. But you're right, Israel, having these instructors who know how to bring out the best in these students and know their capabilities is also incredibly important. Here one of the instructors is telling the students where they need to emphasize things more or not emphasize things more, and it will make a difference in their performances. And of course, we saw a spectacular performance. And I think that it's very interesting for this evaluation, even afterwards, for each performer to think about where they felt strongest and maybe not so strong at certain points. And that's that importance of even your own self-evaluation, what you're comfortable with as a performer. And we're seeing a lot of that here, in this documentary.
Thank you. That's perfectly stated. I can't even add to that. I mean, everything you said, absolutely. It Yeah, great. Oh, this part. Go make a movie, Irene. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I mean, it's not a great thing for them. I mean, they just lost, but you know, uh, but I guess I know what you mean. Thank you. I appreciate that, Irene. That was really mature of them to realize that there's still good that can come out of it, even in the midst of being at their lowest point. They can still acknowledge the fact that it's not the end.
Exactly.
It's very nice. I
Well,
would too.
Irene, you do become family. You do become family in something like this. So there is that connection that they all have together. Certainly, it's there.
Part of this felt wrong to film because they were all crying and they had just been given the worst news they could get, and I was like, I feel really out of place, but it also I was like, I have to film it because if I don't, it's almost like
Yeah, because you need it for I guess it is a payoff. Uh,
well,
and
because
I know
I would be robbing the audience of the genuine reaction in that moment, and as uncomfortable and as hard as it might be to film in the moment, I think it was something that had to be done.
I agree. As Irene says, it is certainly part of the experience.
Mhm. And I mean, I knew that them not making finals was definitely a possibility when I pitched it. I mean, obviously, you want the competition to they win everything, you know.
Right.
But I knew that them that them losing was still a very real possibility, and I took that risk. I told them I told them because the entire pitch of the documentary is that they're the best show choir in Texas. And I was very serious about this. If they lost in Texas at any of their competitions, there would be no documentary, and I wouldn't have finished it because I would have walked off the project right then and there because it completely destroys what the entire thing is like about. But luckily, I mean, they didn't lose in Texas. But yeah, I mean, I think I won't spoil what comes next, but I think that it's still they're still able to have happiness pay off by the end. Hey, there's my parents.
Last chance, everybody. We are still watching the conclusion now of Voices of Central.
We're still about 8 minutes out from when the credits will roll, but there are two end credit scenes.
Oh, there
If you
are.
if you're interested in
Oh,
staying.
no, that's great. I didn't know that, guys. There's end credit scenes, so don't wait till after the credits, okay? There are end credit scenes, so don't stop the film. Watch to the end of this entire documentary.
It's a way to trick him into watching the credits. No, something interesting is I everybody hates credits at the end of the movie, but I when I made this and I had spent like 2 years working on it, and there were so many people involved that worked to make it as good as it is. I Ever since I made this documentary, every movie I've gone to at the theater since, I sit through the credits because I'm like, I now understand how hard they worked and how much, and sometimes the only payoff they get for working that hard is their name to scroll on screen for 5 seconds, and sometimes that's all that you can do is just acknowledge how hard they worked and watch their name roll.
Yeah, this is a good point. I always like to look for the different names of in the credits, so I've always done that, and but I understand what you're saying. Certainly, so much work put into it, and they get about a second or two,
Yeah.
if that much.
Sleepless nights, like 6 days a week for months, if not years, depending on what part they're working on in it. um It's great. Thanks for a beautiful evening. Irene, thank you.
Mhm. Oh, thank you so much, Irene, for the $20 super chat. That is so kind of you, Irene. That is so generous. Thank you for such generosity for staying with us through this entire documentary, Irene. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, Irene. Of course, I've seen you through the years, but Irene, it is so appreciated. Certainly, Israel, thank you for bringing such wonderful performances here to the Burn Network, and of course to all of us who get the opportunity to watch Voices of Central. It is appreciated, and we are enjoying it. It is wonderful to see these performances.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys are going to make me blush. I'm emotional. So this is the last chance performance. This is like the last, oh, that's one of my friends. That's like one of the only planned bits in the thing where I was like, I need you to do this real quick because it'll be funny. But yeah, this is, like it says, last chance to see the show. It's the last chance for the choir to perform. And as you can see, some of them are wearing sashes, some of them aren't wearing their jackets. And those are the seniors. Since it's their last performance, they kind of just do whatever the heck they want. And it's always a blast. I didn't
Oh,
have that because COVID happened. And so I didn't get a last chance. But it was kind of cool being here for this because I was like, I did get one.
oh, okay. So it's like this is their exhibition performance.
Yes. This is the last time they'll ever perform the set. Me too, Irene. They did do awesome, Irene. Irene, making me chuckle. I think you're ahead of us, Irene.
She might be just a few seconds ahead. Okay. Bravo, Israel.
Thank you. Woo!
If
Once
we were
again, there are two end credit scenes in case you want to stay, people.
if we were in if this was like a proper screening and we were in the theater or something, we'd be like, ah,
No, some people stood up and applauded at the premiere we did have of like 30 people. It was fun. But no, just watching, seeing people's reactions to it. It's not. I would have made the documentary regardless because I had fun making it and I was passionate about it. But seeing the reaction to it has been very surreal, and I'm super appreciative of it. Yes, my sister was in uh Voices of Central Aryan. She was in the varsity choir. This is from Storyblocks. This is called "Down to Get Up Again" by Humans Win. And yes, I quite like the song too. Man, that went by fast.
It did, didn't it?
Wow. That was almost 2 hours.
Yeah, it was more than 2 hours because I interviewed you for about
Well,
30 minutes at the beginning.
you're right, you're right. I mean
So
the movie itself, but
oh,
yeah,
yes, I'm
you're
sorry.
absolutely
I'm
right
so
with the Q&A at the beginning, yeah.
yeah. So,
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, Israel, this has been such a pleasure to have you here and to watch your documentary, Everybody Voices of Central. It's been such a pleasure, and it did go by fast, didn't it, Irene? Because it's those live performances do make the time go by faster when you see a live performance like that. It is very different experience. And Israel, you and I were talking about the demand on just vocalizing, just singing, the demand on dancing, and they're doing both at the same time and doing costume changes presumably and doing set changes, so it is even more demanding, and presumably even a stronger performance because of everything that's entailed in this. So it definitely has that value to it when you witness it in person, and we got to see it here in your documentary. Certainly something to be impressive, in the sense of a performance like this. It Not everyone can do this, and we see that here, the pride that these performers have, as they did talk about passing the torch from one, let's say, as they move on in their lives to the upcoming students here. And let's see these end credits.
Yeah, so that might not mean much to people, but Mason Cawthron was in VOC um, since he was a sophomore, but his family moved his senior year, so he wasn't able to be in it. And so I wanted him to still be a part of the documentary, so he showed up for one of the competitions, and I just had him walk by real quick. But so I mean, if you know, you know, but for people who weren't involved, that might not mean too much. And then that first end credit scene was just a little shout out to Reed, Caroline, and Josh. May they rest in peace. I knew Reed, but Caroline and Josh I didn't get a chance to know. But from what I've heard, they were great people who really added a lot to VOC.
Well, I know nothing about this. What happened? Was there a tragedy associated here,
Um,
Israel?
yeah, all three of them ended up passing away tragically in their high school years. I knew Reed; he was in my freshman year, um, and he died of heat stroke on uh, he was in Scouts, and they he died of heat stroke on a hike. You can actually look it up, Reed Kamita, and right here, yeah, there's news sites. I think they even talked about him on like ABC News
Hmm.
and and stuff like that. It was very here's a link to that. I'll put it in the chat with you, and then I guess you can maybe forward that. But
I'm so sorry to hear this.
yeah.
I'm very sorry to hear that. And did you, Israel, did you dedicate the film to them as well? Or you did? Okay. So thank you for informing me of that. I was completely unaware of that. And I'm just going to show this. I see it here, parents. And I'm just going to present it here, everybody. I'm not going to show the whole video, but I see the story that you're talking about here. I'm just sharing part of it. I'm not showing the whole thing here about a young child, 15-year-old son dies on a hiking trip, excuse me. And this is such sad news. And this is who you did dedicate this documentary to. And certainly our thoughts are with the family, with their loss there. And for those who passed away that um, you know, unfortunately are reminding us here of this event. But I have to say, Israel, despite this unfortunate event and everything, I think to be remembered in this way, to have a film dedicated to you in this way is such, a beautiful way to remember someone going forward. Certainly, it is a lovely way to do that. And so, that's an additional thing about your documentary. I think that is so important to note, that it is these things and the people that we love and care about who are most important, and having that here certainly is incredibly important to note that.
Yeah, he was the sweetest person you could have known. He was, like I said, I never had the opportunity to meet the other two, but from everything I've heard about them and how big of an impact they had, that even though I didn't get to meet them, I felt their impact. I felt the need to dedicate the documentary to those two as well. And yeah, three great people gone way too soon. Yeah, may they rest in peace. I never had the opportunity to. I don't even know if his parents saw the documentary. I hope they did, but if they don't, my thoughts are still with them. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And things like this do happen, and it is very respectful for you to acknowledge that this happened to their family. Our thoughts and prayers do go out to the family about what had happened here, and of course to you, Israel, because I know it's obviously affected you. You dedicated your film to them, and what a lovely dedication! What a lovely film, Israel. It was amazing. I enjoyed it so much. It felt like going to. I felt like I watched a professional musical, Israel. So, um, uh, you know,
Hey.
people pay a lot of money for those tickets to see something like this. This was a beautiful journey. Um, and certainly I have to commend you on such a job well done. You were concerned about the editing, like this was perfect. And I do, whatever your decision is, I would encourage you to enter your documentary into a competition. If anything, just to even to get more views. You're not even looking for anything, let's say. Just put it in there, get more views, make more people aware of it, because it is a good documentary. So there is that. Sometimes I've seen some documentarians or movie makers who say that they made the film, and the desire to make the film had nothing to do with how much it made. It was to get it out there. The filmmakers of Devotion, they made a film about naval pilots during the Korean War, were very clear. They said, we don't care how much it makes. Our goal was to get it out there, and that's what we wanted to do, and we did it, and we're thrilled with that. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes it'll get picked up. There's all different things that can happen. So I encourage you, someone who has a talent that you have, to please keep going with it. And we are going to premiere everything you make here. Well, just ask me. I enjoyed this very much. I love performance art, Israel. So please do keep going with this. And I'm excited to have you here on the network with your Otaku Experience
Mm.
show, which is on Thursday nights at 5 p.m. Israel, before we end this stream, is there anything you'd like to say about your film that we haven't spoken about, that you want to bring to everybody's attention?
Um. I mean, not really. I think we basically covered it. I see you, Tom Jr. Thank you to everybody who was here. Thank you to everybody who stayed and watched. We had like 10 viewers consistently throughout the entire thing. That was great. Not everybody was super active in the chat, but not to say that like you're. I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm still kind of in a daze after everything that had happened. Thank you so much to everybody for watching it. I it's outperformed anything. So it says 2,200 views on it. To me, that's like $2.2 billion. Like to me, this has overperformed. I'm super happy about it. I'm never gonna make my money back on that, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't need to. I feel like it was a good like 8,000 well spent. And that's how it turned out, and hopefully onto to bigger and greater things in the future. You said you guys would be willing to premiere stuff in the future, and I appreciate that, but it'll probably be a minute before the next thing. I'm currently
Oh, that's
working on.
okay. It doesn't matter. We're not going
Yeah.
anywhere. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Okay. Okay. I'm currently working on a script for an animated film, but I need the budget for that, and I have to finish the script, and then animating takes a long time. So I'll see you guys in 2030 for the premiere of of the next film.
That's fine. And guys, make sure you like and subscribe to Israel's channel, King Tannic, here on YouTube. You can catch him here, of course, on the Rrr Network. You can catch Tom Jr. Jackson, who is the moderator. Thank you, Tom, for everything you've done tonight. We are all goof people right here on the Rrr Network as well. He also has a channel. Israel, I can't tell you how pleased I am that you've come on to do this special screening with us. It's been such a pleasure, such an enjoyable experience. And I'm very grateful that you brought this and made this documentary. For everybody out there, thank you for watching. I know there's going to be people watching this on the replay. Thank you for your generous super chat, Irene. Hope you and your family are well. Yes, thank you so much, Jari. That is very kind words. And for everybody out there, I just want to say, please do check back. Keep in contact. Subscribe to Israel's YouTube channel, everybody. King Tannic is the channel. To keep, see what Israel is also doing outside of the Rrr Network on his animation, movies, and other projects. So please do that. On behalf of the Rrr Network, I want to thank all of you for being here. And remember, guys, as I finish up this stream, no matter where you are out there in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.